Hello, friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Still a little sick, but it's okay. I just took a cough drop and I'm feeling pretty good. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates. Like always, I'll be reading you the post and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my forever world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's first story comes from the relationships subreddit. It was posted by forsakenbyhotdogs on July 7th, 2016, and was titled, Me, 35 female, with my boyfriend, 41 male, of 3 years. Just found out he's been secretly eating hot dogs because I unknowingly starve him. I recognize that this sounds insane from the post title. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 3 years. We have what I would describe as a pretty solid relationship. We have enough similar interests to enjoy activities together, but enough divergent ones that we also have full, complete lives outside of the relationship. We already spend almost every night together and plan to move in together when his lease is up in the fall. We work about 3 miles from each other and, on some days, carpool depending on schedules. Typically, during the work week, I get up and make breakfast and pack our lunches. This has been ongoing since probably 6 months in. Usually, for breakfast, I don't do anything crazy. Oatmeal, cereal, scrambled eggs, and toast. Normal breakfast stuff. For lunch, I pack sandwiches, chips or pretzels, some sort of fruit, and a couple of days a week, a sweet treat. I always make his portions larger than mine, and he's never complained before about any of it. Today, we went to lunch and stopped at a nearby park. I was sitting across the picnic table from him when I noticed some yellow on his shirt and made a comment. "You have yellow on you," joke. He looked over and scratched it away. There was a lot of it, and I mindlessly said, "Did you take a mustard bath before lunch?" And he just turned bright red. After some questions as to why he was embarrassed, the truth came out. I don't make him large enough meals, and almost every day for the past 2 or so years, he takes his 15-minute morning break and walks to a nearby convenience store where he purchases what can only be described as a second breakfast hot dog. I recognize this sounds ridiculous, but I am so hurt and upset that he has been starving all this time and never wanted to say anything. Of course, now I am embarrassed because he thinks it is all the funniest thing to ever happen, but I am really, really bothered that instead of sharing his discomfort with me like a normal person, he just had a mid-morning hot dog for months on end. The conversation eventually ended up with us both mad. Me for what I feel is deception. Him for what he feels is me blowing this all out of proportion. Do I just ignore it, or is this indicative of bigger problems? Scaling Stories Corner. I think it's sort of a problem, but also thinking about why he might have not told OP about how he felt in the first place. Maybe OP's boyfriend was already super grateful for what his girlfriend was making for him, or maybe he was embarrassed that he was still feeling hungry after what OP made him. She says she made him larger portions, so I'm just thinking about a world where it's already a decent amount of food, and maybe he feels ashamed for asking for more. Of course, I think the best thing for him to do is to communicate with OP, because you should be talking to your partner in a relationship about your thoughts and feelings, and if you've been having to buy an extra side meal every single day because you're not down to have a simple conversation with your partner, then yeah, it can be kind of an issue. He's also 41, so I would expect someone at that age to be able to communicate better with their significant other. But I don't think this is like the biggest problem of problems. I think some better communication could really be applied here, and then they'll have no problems, or at the very least, less problems. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, "I agree he probably should have said something before now, but you also sound like you are blowing this way out of proportion. He honestly probably enjoyed his mid-morning break and thought of it as a treat rather than you starving him. I'm sure he could have snuck food from home, gone to the grocery himself, or any number of options if he truly didn't want a hot dog. Commenter 2 says, look at it from his perspective. He can complain to his girlfriend about something that's pretty trivial, or he can go get a hot dog when he is hungry. Now, I know you are hurt, but he really was trying to avoid an argument. You get up and pack his breakfast and lunch, something I am sure he is very grateful for. But if he asks for more food, there is a real possibility that you will see this not as him just being more hungry than you thought, but as him being ungrateful for all that you do for him. And let's be real here. Your reaction to this situation is exactly why he didn't tell you. Instead of empathizing and being grateful that your boyfriend cares about not starting needless drama, you are effing pissed off. There's absolutely no reason for you to be angry, except that you are. And honestly, the way you are overreacting to all of this kind of proves his point. You took something trivial and silly and got so worked up about it that you had to vent on the internet. Yes, it would have been nice for him to communicate his needs to you, but if you are always this quick to be offended, then you have your answer as to why he simply chose to eat gas station hot dogs instead of asking for more food. Commenter 3 says, you weren't starving him. He's a grown man who, by all means, could have said, at one point, hey, can you pack me another sandwich? He is a grown man who can also make his own lunches. You are taking responsibility for an issue that has nothing to do with you. The real issue is why he didn't feel comfortable saying something about it, to the point where he kept this a secret for so long. Update 1 day later. So, I read everyone's comments and found most people thought I was overreacting, and a handful thought I was a psycho BTCH. By the end of the day, I was feeling pretty bad. Some points of clarification. It was not the consumption of hot dogs that bothered me. It just seemed really weird to me that this was a 2-year habit he had never mentioned to me before. That's like 500 times this has happened, and it never came up. He knows that I have a chai latte obsession. I don't tell him every time I go get one, but he's aware that I hit up the coffee shop, and sometimes he stops by for me. I would have reciprocated, is all. We are both detail-oriented people, so oftentimes, we discuss the minutiae of our days. I don't care what he eats. I am not trying to portion control anything or be his sole source of food. Most people seem to think I am a control freak. I'm not. He initially was defensive about the secret hot dog parties and told me I was starving him. I got upset because I just wished I had known. I am not a crazy person who would have been mad. I would have just asked if he wanted more food or if he was fine with a mid-afternoon snack. I did not really ban hot dogs in my home due to a tragic, shunned accident. Come on now. Anyway, I don't guess much of what that matters now because things have taken a turn for what I perceive to be the worst. Like I said, I was feeling like a crap heel by the end of the day, so I stopped by the grocery store on my way home and bought him 3 cans of Vienna sausages, which I presented with a verbal apology to him before dinner. Before I get more mean messages about meat choices, I know Vienna sausages are not hot dogs. I just thought they were funnier. He laughed, and we moved on. During dinner, which was not Vienna sausages, in case you wondered, we were talking about everything, and I mentioned the original post I had made, and he asked to see it. So, he read it while I was cleaning up my kitchen, and when I got done and went into the living room, he was sitting there with tears in his eyes. I asked him what was wrong, and he took a deep breath and told me that he felt bad. So many people had told me I was off the deep end. I was really confused by this point, so I asked why he felt that way. Turns out, the reason I didn't know about his daily hot dog is because he has been meeting an ex there to take their morning break together. The girl is his college sweetheart who stayed in the city after school. They broke up years before we even met, so I only know of her abstractly. He has always spoken fondly of her, and according to him, they just grew apart. However, it seems that she has a job working nearby the convenience store he frequents, and once they realized, via Facebook, I knew they were friends on there. It did not bother me. See, I am not controlling. They were working in close proximity. They decide to meet up at the store. So they go there 4 or 5 days a week, get their snacks, and chat. He says it's just been talking. She's got a boyfriend. He says they don't really talk about their actual lives. They just shoot the breeze. I asked him why he didn't tell me about this before now, and he said he didn't think it was a big deal, and that he also didn't want me to ask him about it or be suspicious. I don't know. I feel like having secret ex-girlfriend meetings that happen to include hot dogs is a lot different from having secret hot dogs. So, I guess the update is that I am still upset, although I feel like now things are maybe more justified. I tried not to overreact, told him that this was all pretty effing weird, that he has hung out with an ex before, briefly as it may be, daily for nearly 2 years without mentioning it. He said he didn't have any intention of stopping his morning chats with the ex, so I needed to learn to deal with it. I don't know. I honestly just feel really sad and gross right now. Also, he left the Vienna sausages at my place. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, and he said he didn't think it was a big deal. I call BS here. I think it is quite the opposite. Anytime a person deliberately hides something like this from you, the partner knows that they are not doing something right. There is more going on here than just eating a hot dog. OP says, the more I think about it, the more I'm sure she's been the one eating hot dogs, if you know what I mean. After stewing all day, I'm done with it all. Commenter 2 says, additionally, he's been meeting up with her on the sly for 2/3 of your relationship. OP says, yeah, and somehow it never came up. It's way too suspicious for me to get over. Commenter 3 says, I'm sorry, OP. I'm sorry he treated you so badly, lied to you about it, gaslighted you when you found out, and you got crap on by the internet. I know it isn't any real consolation, but I thought the tragic Dachshund incident crack was very funny. I think you have a very good and resilient personality, and I have faith that you will end up in a better place once you make some changes. Tell your soon-to-be ex that you hope he'll be very happy with his hot dogs. OP says, I am seriously considering taking a photo of a hot dog and writing "It's over" on it to send as a breakup text. Commenter 4 says, weirdest update ever, but yeah, that is really strange, and I would be extremely disturbed if I heard that. I'd find it weird if he was having lunch with someone and not mentioning it for all this time, no matter who they were. It's really strange not to mention someone you are in almost daily contact with. The fact that it is an ex makes it all the stranger. If it wasn't a big deal, why didn't he tell you about it in the first place? He must know that this isn't appropriate, or he wouldn't be hiding it. OP says, my thoughts exactly. And if I hadn't noticed the mustard on him, would he ever have told me? It's all so gross. OP says to another commenter, I see what you did there. I appreciate the thoughts, but I don't think any conversation will have him catch up to where I am and meet me in a reasonable place. It's over. OP says to another commenter, I have to laugh so I don't cry. This is all so gross and weird. I'm just glad it happened before his lease was up. ScalingStories Corner. Literally, I was so stun-locked by reading the update post, I needed to read the comments and see other people's replies first before doing my corner piece. But nah, that is just hella messed up from OP's now ex-boyfriend. I wasn't sure if she was still planning to be in that relationship or not by the end of her update post, but she confirmed the relationship is over in the comments. So yeah, ex-boyfriend. I think it's wrong that the ex-boyfriend was meeting his ex regularly while never telling OP, and just like everyone else said, that is a serious, basic breach of trust with your significant other. I'm not sure if he actually ever cheated on OP or not, and I'm a bit confused at why he even spilled the beans to OP to begin with. I think maybe he felt guilty after reading all the replies in the original post, or maybe he's trying to pursue his ex again despite claiming she has a boyfriend and wanted to use that as an opportunity for OP to break up with him. I'm not really sure, but yeah, trust was very much broken, so I don't blame OP for not wanting to stay in the relationship. Okay, friends, so that concludes our first story of the day. Next up, we have a story from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was posted by David DB1976 on December 5th, 2025, and was titled, My girlfriend, 25 female, admitted she slept with someone hours before agreeing to be exclusive. I, 26 male, can't tell if I'm overreacting. What's the move here? My girlfriend of 2 years and I were recently having one of those drunk, tell me something shocking conversations. Everything was lighthearted until she dropped something that completely rewrote the origin story of how we became a couple, something I've always held as a romantic and somewhat dramatic beginning. A little over a month into dating, I told her I wanted to be exclusive. Up to that point, everything between us, her behavior, our connection, the way she talked about us, made me feel like she was on the same page. But during that conversation, she suddenly got overwhelmed, said she needed to leave, and basically walked out. I was confused and pretty upset. I went home thinking maybe that was it. A few hours later, she called, said she wanted to talk, and drove to my place. That night, outside my apartment, in the rain, she told me she did want to be in a committed relationship and that she just needed time to meditate and collect her thoughts. I took it as a cinematic beginning to our relationship. That entire story changed during our recent drunk conversation. She told me that she didn't go home to reflect. She left to go have sex with a dude. Apparently, she met this guy at a party the week we first started going out. They hooked up, and the sex was apparently good enough that she had been hitting him up every few days after. My girlfriend is usually pretty blunt, but this one hurt to hear, especially in context. According to her, when I brought up exclusivity, she suddenly realized that if she agreed on the spot, she wouldn't be able to sleep with him anymore without it being cheating. So she got up, left without an explanation, went to his place, and they had sex for a few hours to get it out of her system. Afterward, she drove straight to my place to officially start our relationship. She says this wasn't cheating because, technically speaking, we weren't exclusive yet. She also said she never felt guilty about it, but didn't say anything until now because she didn't want to ruin the mythology I'd built around our relationship origin story. A story that I loved bringing up whenever people ask us how we met. I honestly feel completely blindsided. Even if this wasn't cheating in the strictest technical sense, it feels like a massive betrayal. It was the fact that she effectively scheduled one last hookup before agreeing to be with me. It makes the beginning of our relationship feel tainted, and it makes me question how she views commitment and honesty. Scaling Stories Corner. Nah, no, that is not okay. She's acting like that technicality makes what she did fine, but that could not be further from the truth. Like, I can understand if you want to take some time to really think about if OP is the person you want to exclusively date. Like, sure, absolutely. If you need time, take some time to think about that decision. But in no world is it right to leave OP on hold so you can smash another dude and then come back to OP and be like, you're down to be in a committed relationship. Like, what? That is a gigantic lack of respect for OP, both as a partner and a human being in general. I'm definitely with OP that it is a massive betrayal, and it would kind of make me lose interest in that person. But they've been together for like 2 years, so who really knows how he's going to take it. But for me personally, that would kind of make me lose interest. Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, that would be a deal breaker for me. People get so wound up on technically we weren't exclusive, but I personally wouldn't want to be with someone who was fine with hurting me, didn't give a crap about my feelings, as long as they could get off on a technicality. Commenter 2 says, perfectly said. There's something really gross about this girl's reasoning to me. Like she just had to squeeze one last passionate bang session with someone else before being tied down to OP. I wouldn't be able to get over this, personally. And also, if she truly is so sex positive and this wasn't a big deal to her, why does she feel the need to hide it from him for so long? OP says, I would like to note that she really hasn't taken this as someone who got caught on hiding something. No guilt, since, in her mind, there wasn't any cheating, and it doesn't really change the fact that we officially began exclusively dating later that night. If anything, she's taken the attitude of a girlfriend whose boyfriend found out her ex had a big dick or something. Like it's in the past, and it's an insecurity if I ruminate on it. Commenter 3 says, that's brutal. The fact that the sex was so superior that she needed to squeeze one last session in, I'd bail. OP says, we hadn't had sex at that point, so I don't think there was a comparison taking place on sex quality then. But yeah, I have had some insecurity thinking about how good it must have been to hit him up in that moment. Honestly, haven't wanted to probe her on that point, would rather not know if that was what brought her back to him. Commenter 4 says, I would also be upset that she meets a dude at the bar and is having sex with him every couple of days, but she made you wait a month plus. This, to me, would be a major incompatibility about sex and being perceived as a guy you can have a family with, compared to someone she sexually desires so much. OP, has your sex life been active these last 2 years? OP says, she has a high sex drive and we have a great sex life. No concerns on that front. But yeah, she did make me wait at the beginning as a relationship check to see how serious I was. Although, I wouldn't really judge her if she was sleeping around in the first week or so when we barely knew each other. Just wish I didn't find out about this now, to be honest. Commenter 5 says, she obviously didn't feel about you the way you felt about her. Now, that might have changed in the interim period, but that's the question you should be asking yourself. OP says, I suppose that's what's been going through my mind since. She's a very sex-positive person and just sees sex as something fun people do. So I know this wasn't a high-value judgment on me she made here by choosing some fun with him at that point. Commenter 6 says, trying to be open-minded and helpful here because this exclusivity thing comes strangely to me. To me, I wouldn't have been okay with her sleeping with other people at all while we were dating, unless it was very clear that that was the arrangement. Were you okay with it? I think the fact she doesn't think it was a big deal would show me that we were on very different pages. On the other hand, if she's been the perfect girlfriend since, it's maybe not worth throwing that away over this. Only you can really decide that. I don't think I'd be able to get past it. It just seems like she used a technicality to sleep with someone else. And that wouldn't sit well with me, or, I suspect, most other people. I'd explain how you feel and ask if she'd really be okay if the roles were reversed. OP says, I wasn't aware she was sleeping with the dude at all until now, but I was hardly under the impression she was exclusive to me after the first date, hence me trying to have the conversation a month in. I wouldn't have been bothered by finding out the dude existed if their last time had been before that convo, and this weird timing thing didn't happen. Update 5 months, 2 weeks later. I wasn't planning to come back to this. I posted the original mostly because I was going in circles in my own head and couldn't find a single thread on here that exactly matched what I was dealing with. But when I logged back in, I was surprised to see how many people saw the post. And honestly, the DMs alone were enough to make me type this out. I also found out the post got picked up on other sites, which is a weird feeling. Typing this out on a phone, if formatting is weird, I will fix later. We broke up. A little over a month after the post, I ended it. For a while, it felt like a mistake. Not in I miss her way, more like a constant worry if I'd just let some insecure, macho part of my brain torch a 2-year relationship over something that was actually acceptable. She wasn't a bad girlfriend in many ways. The relationship wasn't bad. That made it harder for me, to be honest. I've got experience in dumping solidly bad girlfriends. What actually happened in that month was a cycle. We'd argue about the hookup, eventually get somewhere that felt like real understanding, and then some random thing would surface it again, and we'd be back at zero. The back and forth quickly got annoying and toxic. But that's not what ended it. Something a few commenters mentioned in the original thread stuck with me. a specific detail I had touched on but hadn't really thought through. I did eventually bring it up to her directly, and she answered honestly, which I'll give her credit for. Before they had sex, she had asked him whether he saw any future between them, not as a condition to sleeping with him, apparently, but she just probed to double check if he was up for that. He said no and that he was just looking for casual sex. She slept with him anyway, drove to my apartment later that night, and told me she wanted to be with me. I sat with that for a long time. On paper, it changes nothing about the timeline everyone discussed in the last post. She still came back. She still chose to be with me afterwards. But something about the sequence of it just hauled me out. She went to him first to get a no before choosing me. Not to mention the whole idea of me sitting at my apartment when this all went down. Although, on that point, just to be clear, I'm not a little nice guy, and he's not some sexed up alpha male like some of you guys in the DMs were describing. Haha. I'm pretty confident, having honestly gotten too much info from my ex when we talked, that this was simply just another dude in the lineup whom she wanted more than me. But all this resulted in me feeling less like a guy she wanted and desired, and started me feeling like a second place trophy. That's probably the most honest way I can put it. For what it's worth, I don't think she's a bad human being. I really don't. But we clearly had completely different wiring around what commitment means and when it starts mattering. She didn't think what she did was a big deal, and also seemed to undervalue the emotional value of sex in general in the post-relationship analysis I've been thinking over. The breakup itself was painful. She took it hard initially, but seems to be doing fine now, seemingly better than me from what I've heard from a mutual. I've been pretty numb these last few months. Not in a worrying way, to be clear. Just going through the motions, and it's getting better every day. I've had bad breakups before, and I know what the other side of one looks like, so I'm not too concerned. A few people from the original post left some genuinely kind comments, and I wanted to thank you for that. I think the thing I keep coming back to is pretty simple. I just want to be someone's first choice. Hopefully, that's out there somewhere. ScalingStories Corner. Yeah, OP put it like how I was thinking. He wasn't ever his girlfriend's first choice. He was her second choice super clearly. He was right to break things off with her because no one ever deserves to not be someone else's first choice. He says he doesn't think she's a bad person, but I honestly think she's a little bit bad because she got confessed to by OP, and then instead of deciding in that moment if it was a yes or no, she went to the other guy first to see if he was down to commit, then went back to him to say yes when he said no. I think that is not the right way to treat someone who is putting you first like that. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be someone's first choice. No one wants to be picked second. You deserve better. Glad you are pursuing it." OP says, "I appreciate it. I've been first choice before, so I'm not here to settle for a second later down the road." Commenter 2 says, "That's tough, but you absolutely made the right decision. I would feel sick at the thought of that, particularly what would have happened if he hadn't rejected her." OP says, "You worded what I was trying to say in my post even better than I did, haha. Like, if he said yes, would there have even been any effort to ping me for another check-in? When we argued about this, she tried to tell me that if he said yes, then she would have had to really think it over and probably would have chosen me. But I came to realize that was total BS." Commenter 3 says, "It sounds like, to me, she just kind of settled for you because you were looking for exclusivity and the other guy wasn't, which, depending on how you view that, it's a good or bad thing. But looking at it from your perspective, I do see where you're coming from because if you both built up a solid foundation and you're in the serious talks before being official, then yeah, you shouldn't be sleeping around." OP says, "Honestly, in the months since all this went down, I've come to not really worry about the idea of her having sex with the guy as much as it was clear I was settled for second choice. Like, her sleeping with the dude just signaled to me that he was clearly the goal those days we were moving towards exclusivity. I don't know if you saw my other comment, but near the end, we argued about whether if he had said yes, it would have been a choice between us in her head or an automatic text to me ending what we had. Now, I feel like, after 2 years, I would have gotten an over the top, of course I would have thought it over and chose you. But she said she probably would have had to think about it, and she isn't sure how she would have chosen back then, although she is pretty sure it would have been me, which is kind of BS to me because she effed the guy on a no. Okay, friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.